Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com for premium picks. Look us up in the sports section on Roku. We're there. Dwyer Boxing and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, this is the first football video I'm doing since the Super Bowl post-game video. That was a good time for us. But of course, the calendar continues to move forward, and so we have to move forward. The NFL draft is in the news. The combine recently concluded. Several different schools across the nation are having pro days. Prospects are rising and prospects are falling in the NFL draft. But to the gamblers out there, right? While the NFL draft is important long term, right? While you need to do well in the draft over time to have the talent to compete in the league, I don't believe that the NFL draft is that important short term, right? Because even talented rookies rarely make a big splash their first year. Let me just say, some sure things in this draft, as happens with sure things in every draft, are going to fail in spectacular fashion. Some guys who you think are naturals to step in and get a lot of sacks will put up anemic numbers. What I want to encourage everyone to do right now is to take a look at Jadeveon Clowney's number of sacks for the last month and a half that he played college football. Right now, if you're one of these people who believes that Jadeveon Clowney is going to hit the NFL and his rookie year immediately put up 15 sacks, what I want you to do is to explain to all of us why he didn't get that many sacks his last month and a half in college. Right? The water's deeper in the pros. So let me just say, don't focus on the Johnny Manziels and the Teddy Bridgewaters as you handicap football for this coming season. Right? Because the odds of either guy stepping in and immediately leading their team to a Super Bowl championship are minuscule. It really doesn't happen. Right? Rather than focus on the Manziels and Bridgewaters for your 2014 projections, I want you to look at the Matt Castles of the world, the Josh McCowns of the world, right? These veteran signings, these guys who have been in the league, who have had to read pro-style defenses from the quarterback position, who, like Castle, are on teams that made the playoffs the year before this last year, who, like Castle, have in the past put up double-digit wins in a season. To me, that's where your attention needs to be. Because the odds of Matt Castle or Matt Schaub making a difference for his team in 2014, in my opinion, is much greater than the odds of Bortles, Manziel, Bridgewater, you name it, making a big difference for their team. Right? Let me point out that Blaine Gabbert went in the first half of the first round a few years ago at the quarterback position. How big a splash did he make in the NFL? Wasn't he viewed as a high draft pick even before he was drafted? Right? He recently got traded to San Francisco. It's possible that new scenery, new teammates might actually rejuvenate his career. But my point is simply, the risk is so great with these rookies that I believe it's a mistake to put too much stock in them in analyzing the impact they're going to have this coming season. Let me also point out, too, that at skill positions, the draft really is a crapshoot. Think about last year. Think about the final four teams, right? The conference championships. Would it surprise you to know that of those four quarterbacks, only Peyton Manning was a first half of the first round pick? In fact, let's dig deeper. Of the four quarterbacks, only Peyton Manning was a first round pick. Right? Colin Kaepernick, second round. Russell Wilson, third round. Tom Brady, second day. Right? My point to you is, don't get too caught up in where Johnny Manziel goes in the draft. It might not mean much. Let me also point out that some other elite quarterbacks slipped in the draft. Aaron Rodgers slipped into the bottom of the first round. Drew Brees slipped out of the first round. Right? Yet both guys, I would argue, are among the very best in the NFL. The reigning Pro Bowl MVP from the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Foles, he's a third round pick. You're kidding yourself if you don't think that Nick Foles is going to have a big impact on his team. Doesn't deserve more of your attention than some rookie who hasn't thrown the 20-odd touchdown passes in the last football season that Nick Foles has thrown with less than 5 interceptions. Right? So just keep that in mind. Just some other advice too. You know, football really is a chemistry sport. It's like basketball. Right? It's like baseball. Sometimes the team as a whole can't be measured by the star power of the individual players. Some offensive lines work better with continuity. Right? Players need to know where other players are going to be. So to me, the biggest news in this free agent signing period are when franchise cornerstone type players, guys who have been there for years, who have excelled for years, who have owned their position on the team for years, who are leaders in the locker room. Guys like the Cowboys' DeMarcus Ware, and guys like the New England Patriots' Vince Wilfork, who reports have it wants out of New England. When those guys leave their teams, to me, that's more meaningful than when the team signs some other hotshot to replace them. Right? For example, Denver right now. I know Denver has gone out and gotten Talib. Great. Talib's a great addition to the secondary. But Denver's losing Champ Bailey. Right? Champ Bailey was a Pro Bowler for years in Denver. Years. When Champ Bailey walked into the locker room, you knew that this guy symbolized the franchise. You can imagine the respect that a Champ Bailey, perennial Pro Bowler, got when he walked through the locker room. You can imagine that young corners on that Denver team probably kept an eye on Champ Bailey to figure out how to play their position. Right? Well, Champ Bailey's gone now. So even if Talib might have some of Champ Bailey's skills, It'll be a long time before Talib walks in the locker room and commands the kind of respect and adoration that a Champ Bailey commanded. Let me also point out, too, people get excited when they hear that their team has picked up a Talib. Just understand that 2 years ago, an argument can be made that Champ Bailey was the best defensive player in the National Football League. You're not just adding guys, you're losing guys. And some of the guys you're losing are the cohesive bonds that kept that locker room together. Right? So, when you hear that a big name who you just associate with a franchise, let's say a Ray Lewis type player, has been cut, that's big news. Right? To me, that's going to hurt that team, at least in the very short term, at the start of the season. In other words, the certainty the Cowboys had that DeMarcus Ware would be coming off his side, that side of the defense was locked down. It's going to be uncertain now. Maybe they pick up a great player to replace him. But how can you possibly replace DeMarcus Ware in the locker room the first month of the season? Right? As you look at things like NFL futures, and I understand Cantor Gaming has come out with NFL futures. Right? As you look at, over-unders and stuff like that, you need to consider just the spiritual side of the team. Have they lost team leaders like Champ Bailey, DeMarcus Ware, Vince Wilfork? Right? Let me also say this too, with regard to over-unders, and I'll bet a few, I'll admit that. The problem with an over-under bet is, let's say I have $10 and I win the bet. The casino will likely give me back $9.10. Right? Maybe this is one of those weird over-unders where I'm actually getting back better than even money. What does that mean? I bet $10, I get back $12. Right? I don't find them as alluring. And I'll bet a few, but to me, they're not as alluring as bets that give you leverage. Not $10 back, but the promise of $50 back or $55 back if you win the bet. If I'm going to bet on a season-long bet, I'm going to give top priority to the odds of a team winning the Super Bowl. Right? Understanding that I'm going to be hedging the play. Put another way, Seattle's young, Seattle's fresh, Seattle's been there, Seattle's done that. They're the defending champions. Right? If there was uncertainty before on whether they could climb the mountain, there's no uncertainty now because they have climbed the mountain. Right? They're the favorite to win the whole thing next year. But think about it. If I bet $10 on them, the casino's giving me a plus 550. If this favorite wins the whole thing, I get back $55. Right? Not $9.10 or $12 on a $10 bet. No, I get back $55 in profit. Right? Keep in mind too, if you believe like I believe, that unless key players, think Earl Thomas, think Russell Wilson, think Richard Sherman, unless guys like that get hurt, the Seahawks are almost a certainty, especially with that home field advantage. Very hard to beat Seattle in Seattle. Right, to make the playoffs. Right, let's get real. It'd be a head scratcher if the defending champs don't make the playoffs this year. I've seen weirder things. Right? Longtime football fans remember Randall Cunningham getting knocked out for the season the first game of the year. Tom Brady getting knocked out for the season the first game of the year. Weird injuries happen. Right? Guys get, injured or could be in trouble. Personal issues, whatever. Suspensions. Odd things have happened in the league. But if you believe like I do that Seattle is going to make the playoffs, then, of course, that plus 550 becomes intoxicating. Because after they make the playoffs, then you can hedge the play depending on the game. And if Seattle is one of the top 2 seeds, gets a bye, and then gets to play at home, understand they wouldn't play until only 4 teams are left in the conference. Right? And of course, if they're at home and they're playing some visiting team, chances are the Seahawks would be the favorites. That visiting team, you'd get leverage on them. Right? Since you're just dealing in terms of winning the Super Bowl, the leverage would be great because you'd be betting on the money line, on the opponent, if you're trying to hedge the play. So just the leverage part of the bet. Let's say the Seahawks are favored by 10 points or something. You could easily get a plus 200 on that game, making the hedge cheap. So for those reasons, I actually prefer the win the NFL prop if you're doing NFL futures and you're doing season-long bets. I prefer the win the NFL prop over the over-unders. Right? Some of these over-unders are tasty. But again, in making a bet, you need to think about whether you're getting leverage. Right? If I win the bet, how much money do I get? I don't want moral victories. I want to turn $10 into $55. By the way, if you're a hardcore gambler, understand. Last year's 2 seed in the NFC, the Carolina Panthers right now are 20-1 to win the NFL. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me just add too, with regard to the Dallas Cowboys. They're really cutting some veteran players. Right? Miles Austin also got cut. Food for thought. And so you have to view the Cowboys, even before the NFL draft, as being in rebuilding mode. Right? In a division, quite frankly, that had a team last year. The Eagles host the playoff game. That had a different team. The Redskins win the division 2 years ago. And of course, the Giants recently win a Super Bowl. Right? So, my point to you is when you see a team cutting key vets like the Cowboys are, what they're telling you is this is a reboot. Right? I don't think the Cowboys are viable as a team with a chance to win the Super Bowl. Right? I don't think the team views itself as viable, given that they're cutting these key players. Right? You should have that mindset as you look around the league at teams cutting established vets who still have some juice left in the tank, right? Who then don't go out and re-sign other established vets. If it's a youth movement, they're thinking about the future, not the present. Let me hear from you. Leave your NFL thoughts and comments and insights here in the comment section to the video. The goal here is to share information so we can get an edge on the casino. Thanks for stopping by.